Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in to an updated look at college basketball bracketology. This is 4.0, and I will be doing updates, at least 4 or 5 more updates, maybe even up to, a version 10.0, which is what I did last year, over the next few weeks leading into Selection Sunday. The updates are going to become more almost daily, maybe every other day, as we get closer and closer with the conference tournaments starting up. People have also asked me, they've said, well, why do you not do college basketball anymore? What's with all the politics? Well, I broke into politics like last year and I had a lot of big videos. So I do politics now. And yeah, I also do college basketball, but let's get into this. We've got the bracket matrix. We're going to look at that. We're going to look at the T rank. I love the T rank. And then we're going to look at the updated Joe Lunardi Bracketology actual bracket. And so you take a look at the 1 seeds. This is very surprising to me that Alabama at this point is still a 1 seed with 6 losses. Now, see, you take a look at when was the last time this was updated? March 2nd? Yeah, so they still do have Bama as a 1 seed, although it's not consensus. It's kind of a battle right now between Alabama and Tennessee. I will say Alabama analytically could very easily be a 1 seed. They've got 2 huge games left. They've got Florida. I think they face Florida at home coming up. The SEC is a crazy tough conference, so it's not like 6 losses is a end-all, thing for being a 1 seed. But Bama's gonna if they lose again, I think they're gonna drop down to the 2 line. I already thought they were gonna be a 2 seed, honestly, after their most recent loss. Auburn is a consensus number 1 seed. Duke is a consensus number 1 seed. I think Auburn and Duke at this point, based off of their resume, there's no way they're not going to be a 1 seed. So those are 2 1 seeds. And then Houston, the Big 12 this year, a little bit down. We've thought of the Big 12 the past 2 years, especially with the realignment being the super powerhouse. Well, this year it's not nearly as good. It's still a good conference, though. So Houston, they're going to be a 1 seed very likely. They're always really good every year. They have a well-oiled machine. And then the final 1 seed, it's kind of a battle right now. You've got Tennessee, you've got Alabama, you've also got Florida. And then you have Michigan State and Wisconsin. I think Michigan State and Wisconsin, the Big Ten this year is just weak. Neither of these 2 teams are all that impressive, but they both got good records. So Michigan State and Wisconsin right now hovering around the 2 line, maybe the 3 line. They could very easily drop to 3s if they don't finish strong. I know Michigan State, their last game is at home against Michigan. They already beat Michigan on the road. And then Wisconsin, they had a great February and a good back end of Wisconsin, or a good back end of January as well. Moving out of the 3 line, you've got St. John's. St. John's, they've got a really good record. The Big East is not very good, though. So they're on the 3 line. They could move up to a 2. Yeah, they could be. They're like a fringe 2 right now. Kentucky on the 3 line, SEC team. Kind of similar to last year where they're really good on offense, not great on defense. Iowa State, they're on the 3 line. Texas A&M hovering on the 3 line. I think A&M is a team that could get upset early in the tournament. You've got Michigan on the 4 line. Michigan coming off a bad loss to Illinois at home. Michigan's kind of a weird team to where they have a good record, but they are analytically are not very good because of the amount of close games they've had. Normally teams like that, you don't want to say they're going to do bad in the tournament, but based off of their record, they probably should have a few more losses. It gets a little bit fluky when every close game you win. You've got Texas Tech. They've had a really solid season. They've taken advantage of the Big 12 maybe being a little bit down. Arizona, always odd to see Arizona in the Big 12. And then Purdue. Purdue, believe it or not, quietly still having a solid season on the 4 line. Moving out of the 5 line, you've got Missouri. Missouri having a very good year out of the SEC. You look at these 5v12 matchups. I would not be surprised if Clemson lost to a 12 seed. I think Maryland's a solid team. And then Marquette on the 5 line as well. Moving out of the 6th line, you have Oregon, St. Mary's. St. Mary's this year, very solid. Better than Gonzaga in terms of overall seeding. Kansas and Louisville. The 7 line, UCLA, Mississippi State, Ole Miss, and Memphis. Memphis out of the American. The 8 line, Illinois, BYU, Creighton, and UConn. So UConn possibly in an 8v9 matchup after winning 2 national titles. Gonzaga on the 9 line, Vanderbilt, New Mexico, Utah State, 2 Mountain West teams. Mountain West always has a number of teams in between the 9 and 11 seeds. The 10 seeds, you've got West Virginia, Baylor, San Diego State, and Nebraska. That's going to be a big game, Nebraska and Ohio State, because there's Ohio State right there in a play-in game. But Nebraska goes to Ohio State, I think, on Tuesday, so that'll be a huge bubble game. VCU, Georgia squarely on the bubble. Arkansas, Indiana, they also have a game against Ohio State at the end of the year. And then Oklahoma and Ohio State. So, yeah, so these teams are like in the play-in. And then the 12 line, Drake. So Drake has a really good record, but they've had a lot of very close wins. They're like 26-3. UC San Diego as a 12 seed. They've had a really, really good year analytically. McNeese, Liberty. The 13 line is Yale, High Point, Akron, and Lipscomb. The 14 line is Chattanooga, James, Madison, Utah State, and Towson. The 15 line, Montana, Robert Morris, Central Connecticut State, Norfolk State. And then the 16 line, Bryan, Omaha, Southeast Missouri State, Southern American, and Quinnipiac. You have the other teams right now. This is the bubble outside looking in. Boise State has appeared in 29 out of the, how many total are there? 85. They're appearing in 29 out of 85 brackets right now. So about a third, maybe a little bit less than a third. It would be around a third. Because 29 of 85 legit might be like 33. Think about it. If 33 out of 100, it's maybe a little less than a third. Texas, 18 total brackets. North Carolina, they've got Duke at the end of the year. Imagine they face Duke at home. Duke is a really good team, but I don't know, man. Duke, they're just lucky the ACC is terrible. When you're in a tough conference and every road game is a battle, Duke hasn't had to deal with that. Now, I know Duke is getting all this hype. I get it. They're blowing everyone out. But they're in a very easy conference, let's be honest. Xavier, SMU, Cincinnati, Wake Forest getting some shout-outs. And then, man, UC Irvine. It's tough being in the Big West this year with UC San Diego. But there's some other teams. Looks like Marist, possibly. Northern Colorado, Arkansas State. Those are teams that may end up winning. And if they win their conference tournament, they're going to be in. We understand that. Moving on to the actual rankings. You can take a look at this, and we can see Houston, the number 1 overall team, which kind of surprises me based on, like, if you look at this, you look at how Duke is blowing these teams out. I mean, but the problem is these teams are not going to be, like, take a look at their game scores. 99, 99, 100, 99, 99, 90. I mean, it is impressive. When they beat Illinois really had it. They were hit with the flu real bad. But Duke is the number 2 overall team, Auburn, and then Florida in front of Alabama. There's Alabama with 6 losses. Bama's got 2 huge games. One of them, I believe they still face Florida. I also think they face Tennessee as well. The SEC is just such a tough conference. So that final 1 seed, like, I think it's very obvious is what's going to happen. The number 1 overall seed is going to be Auburn. They're going to pick to go to Georgia, I think. That region, it's like the South region. Duke is going to be the number 2 overall. And then Duke is going to be another number 1 seed. And then you're going to have Houston as another number 1 seed. And then the final 1 seed is going to be between Florida, Alabama, Tennessee. I really can't see another team sneaking in. It's Florida, Alabama, Tennessee. So what is Florida's schedule? Hold on. Let me look at this really quickly. Florida has Alabama, Ole Miss, so they should beat Ole Miss relatively easily. If they beat Bama on the road, I think it depends what happens in the conference tournament as well. If Bama ends up winning the SEC conference tournament, then they're going to be a 1 seed. So we really can't say yet who's the final 1 seed. But you can see you also do have Texas Tech. Texas Tech's had a nice year. They're as a number 7 overall team analytically. Missouri, number 8. Arizona, Wisconsin sitting at number 10. Iowa State, Gonzaga. That's interesting. Gonzaga is way higher than St. Mary's analytically. They're at number 12. St. Mary's is at 22. BYU at number 13. BYU. That's a team, depending on what matchup they get in the first round. I mean, what are they projected to be, like a 7 and 8 seed right now? You've got Purdue, Michigan State, Maryland, Illinois, St. John's. Yeah, St. John's sitting with just 4 losses. The problem is the conference they're in. But you can see Louisville, Clemson, St. Mary's, Kansas at number 22 analytically. You've got Kentucky there. You can see Kentucky 8th best offense, 72 on defense. St. John's 86 on offense. That is not good if you're picking them to go deep. Missouri 59 on defense. Not great. Normally you want like top 10 or top 20. Like you can see Houston 5-1. And by the way, this is an offensive efficiency. Houston's overall tempo is really low. That's why they play very low scoring games. Look at Michigan all the way down at 27 with just 7 losses in the Big Ten. VCU at 24-5. VCU having a very solid year. And now this is based on just overall record. So you can see their actual ranks here on the left, but I just kind of want to see the best teams. So you can see Drake sitting at 27-3. St. Mary's 27-4. UC San Diego, man, they're 44. For a Big West team to be ranked 44th overall, that's impressive. High Point, they're having a very good year. UC Irvine and UC San Diego. If they, I mean, they might both make it, even if one might have to get an at-large bid. No, I don't think that's going to happen, but we'll have to see. McNeese having another good year. So yeah, Clemson to me is a paper tiger. Let's be honest. They when you're in the ACC, you can win games pretty easily. Let's be real about it. Auburn, the number 1 overall seed. Georgia, first team out. Last team in. Wait, first team out? Yeah, first team out. I don't know why they do it like that. Really, what they should have is in the middle, it should be the last team in, and then the first team out should be on the right. Last 4 byes: Baylor, San Diego State, Arkansas, Nebraska. Last 4 in. So this would be the first 4 game these teams playing. Oklahoma faces Indiana, possibly Ohio State, Texas. Ohio State already faced Texas. First 4 out: Georgia, North Carolina, Boise State, Xavier, Wake Forest, SMU, Cincinnati, Villanova. And so this is all going to be decided. Like, Indiana faces Ohio State. None of this it's all going to change. But you can see the matchups right there. And then just looking at the South, so Auburn decides to go to Atlanta. Of course, they would face Illinois or Vanderbilt. Yeah, not great, honestly, if I'm Auburn. I'd much rather face a New Mexico or a UConn, just because Illinois probably should be like a 4 or 5 seed, but they just got hit with the flu. I think they're healthy again because they just crushed Michigan. Clemson taking on Ohio State or Texas. Not a big fan of Clemson as a 5 seed. Michigan facing High Point. Michigan, if they lose to Michigan State, they're probably going to move down to a 5 seed, honestly. Marquette could you imagine that, Ohio State against Michigan in the second round? Probably unlikely, though, if Ohio State has to play in the first 4 as well. Marquette versus VCU. VCU is at 11. I could see VCU winning that game. They've had a good year. I'm not a big fan of them. You've got Kentucky taking on James Madison, 3v14. Do we dare pick against Kentucky again as a 3 seed? I mean, it's like Kentucky is guaranteed to be a 3 seed. Every time I do an update, Kentucky's a 3 seed. Mississippi State taking on San Diego State, Iowa State, and Montana. Possibly the most boring game of the tournament, Iowa State, Montana. Houston taking on Omaha, big matchup. BYU, Utah State. Yeah, Houston is going to... Well, BYU, I don't know. You might... yeah, Creighton and Gonzaga. I mean, the 8 and 9 seeds are like... It always feels like the 8 and 9 seeds are dangerous, but then they normally never do anything. Utah State's had a good year, too. Drake taking on Oregon. Oregon is a 5. I don't love Oregon this year. It's just the Big Ten. The middle of the Big Ten is so watered down. Or I don't know if I'd say the middle of the Big Ten. They have really the problem with the Big Ten is they have no ultra elite teams, and the SEC has like 5. Like the SEC's top 5 teams are better than every single Big Ten team. Because the Big Ten, it's got like, I guess it's got depth to it, but it's a bunch of average to me. There's no superpower in the Big Ten. That's the problem. St. John's and Liberty, yeah, I mean, we'll see with St. John's offense scares me a bit with how inefficient they are. St. Mary's taking on Oklahoma or Indiana. I mean, we'll have to see if Indiana even makes it or Oklahoma even makes it. Wisconsin taking on Chattanooga. Yeah, Wisconsin to me is a 3 seed that probably goes home in the first round. Nothing against them. Louisville taking on West Virginia. And then Florida and Central Connecticut. Florida here is a 2 seed. Moving on to the East, so Duke goes to the East. They would be the number 2 overall team, but they're obviously a 1 seed, and they decide to go to the East. I think Marist could beat them, the pollster. Yeah, they're a good pollster. New Mexico taking on UConn. I mean, if you're Duke, I don't think either of these teams are that great. I mean, New Mexico's always a solid team, but if you're a 1 seed, you should defeat those 2 teams. UConn, there's no way. UConn, they're not going to do much this tourney. Missouri taking on Yale. Purdue taking on Lipscomb. UCLA. I think UC San Diego would probably beat UCLA. UCLA has a good defense. I'm not in love with UCLA, though, as a 6 seed. It seems like all like the 5 and the 6 seeds. I don't know. Texas Tech taking on Towson. Memphis taking on Arkansas. That would be a fun matchup. It's like a regional matchup. You've got Tennessee taking on Norfolk State. And then they do have Bama as the final 1 seed. See, the thing is, I don't know if this... When was this updated, though? 228. Yeah, so that was before Bama's loss. I mean, they might... Florida might be a 1 seed, honestly, because of Bama's recent loss. But then Bama faces Florida anyways, and then they're going to have the SEC conference tournament. So it's like, there's not much to debate right now. It's all going to work itself out. Bama would face Bryant. Creighton would face Gonzaga. Maryland, McNeese. I think McNeese has kind of been underwhelming this year. I mean, people thought they were going to be really good. It's kind of like, I mean, you play in an easy conference like that. Arkansas taking on, or excuse me, Arizona taking on Akron in a 4v13. Kansas taking on Nebraska. A&M taking on Utah Valley, Ole Miss, Baylor, Michigan State, Robert Morris. That's a pretty good draw for Michigan State, man. Because Kansas this year does not scare me. A&M to me is a week 3. Ole Miss or Baylor. I mean, yeah, I think that's a really good draw. Michigan State would be in the Cleveland area too. That's the Indianapolis. That's where Bama would go. Yeah, so I mean, ideally what we would have is we would have St. John's be a 1 seed. Just because I think it'd be funny to see. I mean, it'd be cool to see a different team be a 1 seed, but St. John's would have to win out, honestly, because they just don't have the analytics to be a 1 seed. They'd have to win the rest of their games, then win. I mean, they do have home court advantage, Madison Square Garden, in the Big East tournament. Let's be honest. Can any of these other teams be a 1 seed? Really, they can't. It's not. I mean, unless Michigan State wins everything, and maybe. But I think the final 1 seed is going to be either Alabama, Tennessee, or Florida. Unless they all, eat each other and then Michigan State wins out. Maybe if St. John's wins out because they're like 27-4 right now, they might have a chance. None of these other teams have a chance at a 1 seed. It's not going to happen. And then this is the updated bubble. So you can see, I'm going to zoom this in even more. The updated bubble looks like this. VCU, this is based off a net overall, and then you can see their resume rank. Normally, the averages is what you want to have a good rank in, so... But VCU sitting as an 11 seed at 29 in terms of net. Baylor, Georgia, those teams are possibly in. UC, San Diego, could they get an at-large? Right now, they're above Ohio State in terms of net. It's interesting because where's Nebraska? It's crazy they have Nebraska in the tournament at 57 in terms of net. I mean, net is not the end-all, be-all. But it is interesting how different some of these teams... New Mexico has pretty good analytics. West Virginia has decent analytics. Cincinnati, not great analytics. SMU, not great analytics. Yeah, so, I mean, we'll see with this. But that's just the bubble. And then let's just go to all. Yeah, you can see. I mean, it looks like they have Florida as the final 1 seed in this. Even Tennessee above Alabama. It's going to be one of these teams. It's going to have to be. And it's crazy how low they have St. John's. It's just because they're not dominant. That's the problem. The analytics need to be dominant. Look at Gonzaga at number 8 in the net. The net is... When you look at their resume, that's pretty crazy. I mean, but if you look at this, Ken Palm, BPI, this is ESPN's Power Index, BPI. I mean, they think Gonzaga is an elite team. A lot of close losses will do that to you, but either way, guys, that's just the update for 4.0. That's going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.